Hello, humans. Welcome to the N-Word podcast, brought to you by Martin. That's me.
And Matt.
That's him. Matt, welcome back. Good to see you.
You too.
Recorded one of these for a long while. We're joined today by Kyle and Paul from SC Isle of Man. Welcome, chaps.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate sparing a little bit of time. A few things we want to dig into. Obviously, I'm sure most people watching and listening know Paul as the manager. Kyle, you're midfield primarily.
Yeah.
How long have you been within the setup?
Yeah, sort of since the end of the first season, I got a bit of cup run and really, yeah.
And Paul, the job you took over, obviously, from how's that? Because I think you came in interim initially and then took it full on. What was that initially like for you, taking that role on? Was that something you envisaged doing?
Not at the time. No, it's horrendous, to be honest. That whole experience isn't one I'd like to go through again. The team needed a lot of support at the time, and personally it was very difficult because of the circumstances, but we battled through it and we got through it, and it's been a bit better this season. I think I said to someone a while ago, not that long ago actually, that I'm starting to feel like I'm a bit more comfortable in my own skin in the role now, like nearly 18 months in, so we're getting there.
Not knowing maybe the politics behind that, is the politics behind that when you said it wasn't a beginning, or was it just
it made a bit of a stir?
Okay.
I think, to put it kind of like lightly, I think, and because I was on the board and part of that decision process, and then was the person to take over. I don't think like the optics were great, and I've stayed very quiet about it all, and I'll continue to do so. But I think it was an interesting time, should we say, and the dynamics of being in a small community and taking such decisions and things working out the way they did probably could have been handled a bit better, but also from all sides, I think, maybe, and it just made it an interesting dynamic for a little while, should we say. So
as naysayers, you're proving them wrong anyway. So
I hope so. We're kind of getting there, I think. Yeah.
So we just want to chat a bit about, for maybe people that aren't super familiar with it, with FC Isle of Man, and a couple of bits I was learning myself online. So we know what I'm going to test you, Kyle. I'll test your Manx on the crest, and what the Manx is. It's on your crest.
Is it be better, is it?
Yeah. You say the Manx, more importantly.
No, I
can't either.
Don't want to push it.
I can't either.
Although I know what it says, I just don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know.
So one of the things I've been to a few of the games, one of the things that really strikes me is the fan base you have there, and the passion they have for a community thing, which I suppose I chatted to the FC guy before we even started, and that was one thing they really wanted to create. And it certainly seems to be instilled down there. Is that something, I assume, you take great pride in, not only on Ireland, but I suppose especially when you're off Ireland playing?
Yes. I mean, it surprised me, when we spoke way back when about all of this, and the envisage to have this like key community asset. I didn't quite think that it would have the impact on some people's lives that it actually has had, and it like helped me set the club up through difficult moments. But it's also now it's in existence. It's given meaning to people's lives, which football should help the world be a better place, and your experiences through football should help you deal with difficult situations in life if things are going well. And it seems like that is what the club is doing for people on and off Ireland, and results aside, anything else aside, like the club being able to do that for people is incredible, really. So super proud of that, and a lot of it has been organic. We've not actively driven that. I don't think the supporters have taken it and run with it and turned it into an amazing place and supportive place for each other. I think our job is to make sure that we've got that in our changing room and around the club as well. So it's a great place to be, no matter who you are and how you're involved in the club.
Also, you're playing at its essence grassroots, and people are sacrificing cash to go and travel and watch. I assume that's pretty humbling.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, I think the big one for me was the Bury game. It was on a Tuesday night, I think it was, away at Bury, and you had like over 100 people come and support us, spend their money, take time off work to come and support us play football. It's just, I still think it's a bit surreal, to be honest. Like, it's mental.
And you've got people living in England, haven't we, that travel to every away game to come and watch us play, that some actually don't have any connection to the Isle of Man and just kind of came and watched our first game at Main Road 3 seasons ago and stuck with us, and others who have Manx heritage or were Manx and relocated. Like, they're turning up to away games, and we've got this little travelling community now at all our away games. It's just so lovely to be a part of, really.
And how do you find that in terms of, do you thrive off knowing that, or is there a bit of pressure that you kind of have on that with these guys doing?
I think a bit of both, but then like depends how you play under pressure, I suppose. But like knowing that they're there supporting you, and it's not like a big massive like Man United say where you get the backlash of the fans. They're with you if you lose, if you draw, if you win, they're always with you, and then get the boat back with them. You sit and have a conversation with them. It's like a more close-knit community, if you like. We speak to the fans know us, and we know them by name. So
yeah, I noticed that. I was at a game a couple of weeks ago, and just to follow the kids, there's a lot of kids down there, and they're having photographs with the players, etc. Role models. That's what you'll no pressure again. But again, role models, aren't they?
It's hugely important. I think that happened amazingly well in season 1 when we were winning, and then last season was a much tougher season and fewer people down the bowl, and people like to be associated with positive things, don't they? But part of this club is sticking together through thick and thin, and we had a core group of maybe 500-600 people last season, and they're the ones that have really driven it again this year. In the last few home games, we've seen more kids down and more young people down, more families down. The atmosphere is getting better and better and better. So like the singing through games is incredible, isn't it? And it's great to see that positive support. Like, if there's any kind of banter between fans, it's not out of order, but it's not like what you might experience at a professional game in England. It's just good, positive support of people who are trying their best for our community, and that's what we always envisaged, and hopefully it stays like that for as long as possible.
So let's talk about that vision from those early days of the concept to what you see today. Is it in a different place than you expected it to be? Is it?
Yeah, I guess it's been a bit of a journey from the group that we created to set the club up. There's not that many left. It took a huge amount out of people. And yeah, things got frayed at times because it just like all sorts of things have happened in our personal lives as well. That, it's 6 years or so now that we've been on this journey, and to have it how I had it in my mind from day one, like, it's amazing where it is at the moment, but I've had to let go of a lot of control. And at the beginning, that was really difficult. But the more things have happened, and the more people come on board, and the more you see things happening organically, and it's getting easy. It's easy now for me to go, that's not on me. It's not up to me. It's not up to us as the founders anymore. It's kind of taking on its own path, and we've got to be comfortable with that, and also have trust in the process, and that people are going to do it for the right reasons and in the right way. So that's probably the best thing, is that we've got this actually quite a broad group of people from our community who are now just adding energy to the club and taking things on themselves. But that's taken a while for me to be comfortable with that, I guess, because I had this is what I think the club should be from day one, and we're nowhere near that yet, but we're also better for it because more people are taking ownership and responsibility to make it kind of happen.
It's like starting a business, isn't it? You've got control of everything, and as it grows, you've naturally got to let go of the wheel a little bit, which I'm sure is difficult at times when it's all your brain.
Completely, but we're in a really good place, and we've learned a lot, and a lot of good and not so good has happened over the 3 years, and that'll stand us in great stead going forwards. And as I say, this broad kind of base within the community will make sure there's always people around to help the club function and sustain it. So it was never meant to be reliant upon one person or one small group of people, and that's probably the best thing really over the last 3 years is we're not, and that's really important.
Yeah, it makes it scalable as well, doesn't it?
Of course.
Yeah. So a question around culture. So before we ask Paul what he wants the culture to be in the change room, what do you see as the culture in the changing room?
At present, really positive. In terms of you've got the leaders, and then sort of they're good like role models, if you like, for I'm still a young lad, and you've got all the lads in there that have experienced a lot through playing with the Isle of Man. Obviously not FC Isle of Man, it's not been around 3 years now. So in the national team, if you like, and what they've experienced to try and pass down to us, I think it's just really positive in there. I don't know, I think the message comes from the management down through as well. So everyone's kind of portraying the same message to the younger lads, and then that sort of builds, you know, a positive environment and everyone working towards the same goal, which is really important, isn't it?
So you think, I guess, people that are on the bench, they're as supportive as the guys on the pitch,
Yeah,
vice versa.
getting that message across is obviously difficult. Like if I'm on the bench, I'm not happy, but I think that's a good thing as well, because you don't, you know, if you're the manager, I can only speak from what I assume, you want people disappointed if they're on the bench and they're not starting, then that obviously builds a, you know, everyone being competitive and pushing each other. So yeah, I think it's important that the people on the bench or even not on the squad realise how important they are to our match day starting 11.
And is that the environment you're looking to create? Cool.
Yeah. I think, you know, we're a lot closer than we were, but we're not where we want to be from an end destination. You know, when I think I'm right in saying that when people signed this season, they were signing to fulfill whatever role they were asked to fulfill, whether that was a member of a training group or, you know, putting on the jersey as a starter, and however they fulfilled that role, it was to the best of their ability. And there's players that have not played any minutes, I think, or very few minutes this season, but have turned up near enough every training session and made themselves available for near enough every game, and they're probably the most important players in the group. If they're happy, they're contributing, they're positive, then that kind of undercurrent of bitchiness that can pervade any group if things aren't quite going people's way, it is kept back a little bit. So yeah, you know, it's really heartening to hear Kyle describe it like that, because that's what we're attempting to do, and that's tricky when you've got a group of people coming from different clubs who have that kind of competitive nature, and there's been like that kind of the clickiness that we're still probably not yet a team in one club, because people still go back to other clubs and play, and we're not quite there in terms of this is FC Isle of Man and this is who we are and this is how we behave in our world, and that is resilient to everything else that's going on, because people are dipping in and out and experiencing other environments. But yeah, you know, that's kind of what we're attempting to do, and it's good that hopefully the players are recognising that and able to contribute to that.
Do you get, we're talking about all the players dipping in from other teams or they come from a background from other areas and that, do you find a lot of turnover in that sort of sense of people coming in, not gelling and going elsewhere, or developing, or thinking that people say can walk into a team in that sort of sense and realise maybe they weren't? It's like how do you manage all that side, or is it when they come in, do you go out and ask them to come in, or you know, as in just, I imagine, you know, especially over the last few years, is that people want to be playing, people want to be getting involved. So how do you kind of manage that, and that expectation, I guess, of when they come in through the door, or potentially not, this is what who we are and what we do?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'd be interested on Kyle's thoughts on this.
Oh yeah, I can push the carpet.
because commitment's a big one, isn't it? So we've had a lot of players come through wanting to play, but not really seeing it through. Like, so they've not been in the starting 11 as quickly as they think they should be or wanted to be, or not in squads, and not seeing the bigger picture, and seeing the longer term view, and wanting everything now without necessarily earning the right for that to happen, or to displace people that have got the trust of the group or trust of the management already. So I think there's some that have hung around and improved and got an opportunity by hanging in there and keeping their face in the picture. And there's others that maybe over time haven't done that consistently enough and then drifted away. I think people need to be busting the door down to be involved, because if I'm having to convince people to be involved, we're starting off on the wrong foot, and it's that's happened in the last 18 months, and some of those players are no longer really available for us for whatever reason. So we had open trials last year for under 21s. Some of those have stayed in, and Ethan and Harley have played in the last couple of games, and they came in through that process. Some people didn't put their name forward, and I'm not going to go out and start chasing them no matter how well they're doing, because if they're not prepared to stand out, then it's very difficult to play in front of 1,000 people of your community, and also then keep putting your head on the chopping block week in and week out, at times with very little rewards, to then wait for an opportunity when someone's not available to then go, right, the shirt's mine. Like, you've got to have that kind of real resilient, gutsy sort of mindset to put yourself through it. 46 games over a season, like, and commit to it. And not everybody has that, and certainly not all the best players in the Isle of Man have that. So that's why the squad will probably never be the 30 best players on the Isle of Man. He'll be the 30 most committed players on the Isle of Man who are dragging each other there, and making sure that they're hanging around for as long as possible and committing to the club and not just there for themselves. So that would be my answer.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, to be honest. Yeah, I think that's more important, arguably, having the most committed players, because with the midweeks games and, you know, traveling all the time, you're away from family and friends, it's so important with the younger players coming through, say 16, 17, 18. Even now, me at 20, like, looking up at, you've got your Frank or Steve. Steve played every single game last year. He was available for every game. And that's like, I think that's even, although Steve is a really good player, obviously, that's arguably more important than how good he is at football, that he makes himself available and he's committed, isn't he? So
Yeah,
I think like exactly what he said. It's spot on, yeah.
It's so important. And we can only really progress the group if we have a number of people who are equally committed. If we're constantly changing squads and constantly changing teams and don't have the same training group all the time, like, no matter how good a coach you might be, the group's going to progress a lot more slowly than if you've got the same 20, 30 people at training every week and who can play. And I think going forward, we'll prioritise that. Certainly I will, more than just trying to get the best players in, especially if they're not knocking down my door to say, I think I should be involved. Like, you know, you've got to put your head above the parapet a little bit here, because it's a tough world that we're playing in, and the teams that we're playing against, there's people that would be, you know, kicking each other all over the place in training to get a shirt, and you don't necessarily have that on the Isle of Man, because, as you said before, people just expect to walk into a team if they're one of the better players, and we can't have that attitude, really, I don't think.
That makes sense. The question around leadership, okay, maybe Carl, I kind of believe everyone's got some kind of leadership roles, but I'm sure as a younger player there, you are looking up at leadership. So when you look at the more senior players, what leadership qualities do you see in them? Yeah, and do you take away sort of more important?
Yeah, so obviously there's loads of leaders in our team, I think, which is so important. And you've got like Frank, who's club captain at the minute, who's captain the Isle of Man years before. And you kind of just almost, he's open. You can go and speak to him. I can send him a message and he'll reply to you. He's not like sort of, I don't know how to put it, like, he's not sort of thinking I'm better than you, so I won't reply. Do you know what I mean? So he's always open. You can speak to him. Then there's Jack. Jack's experienced loads. Obviously, he's been at academies when he was younger and stuff. So you can go and speak to him, get advice. He was a midfielder, so that helps me. I can speak to him and learn from him, which I think is so important. And them trying to pass down knowledge, which they're willing to do, which I just think is great. Like, at the end of the day, we're all competing, even though they are more experienced, we're competing for the same place in the same squad. To them to try and progress me, I think that's what I like a lot, yeah.
If you saw, not to put Paul on the spot, you look at Paul as the manager and you look at the leadership style, what are you taking away from
that? Probably again the same. He's always open for questions and stuff, and you can sort of challenge him without him getting angry at you. Yeah. and then he'll sit and explain it to you, and I do this because of this, and you've not started this game because of this, which is a lot better than just sort of getting nothing, and then you know what to go away and improve on, or you can ask in training, can we do a bit of this, and he listens to you, which is, I just think it's really important. It's such a good positive group together.
And Paul, when you're looking in at the team, see, like I said, I'm sure everyone on that pitch has some kind of leadership role, but what do you particularly like within that team? Maybe aside from the bits you touched on, which is the fighting for your spot and grinding.
It is that in the main, they all get it, like, in terms of why the club's there, and most of them, apart from the young lads, know that the club's not really there for them anymore. It's for the next lot that come through, and part of their role is to make sure that the group is as good as it can be, and the shirt's in a better place when they leave, like, and they're doing that. Like, we can do it even more, I think, you know, and part of what I've always said is that the group will only be as good as they help themselves to be. Like, my role and the coach's role, it might add a 20% impact on them, but the rest of the 80% comes from them, and the better they are in helping each other through good moments and bad moments and improving and understanding the game, and the more they can see the game in the same way, then the next manager that comes in has got an even better player group than I had. And that's my job, is to help the player group be as good as it can be for the next person that comes in, because I won't be doing it forever. So as long as we're all thinking like that, like the club will be in a really good place for years to come. As soon as you start thinking about what's in it for me, or, Frank withholding information from Kyle because Kyle might take his shirt the next week. As soon as we're in that place, then we're in England to a certain extent. Then we're in some of those semi-pro clubs where it's dog eat dog. The way our club will get as far as it can in the leagues is by us working together to help each other for the next group that comes through. It's great that that's what's happening, but we need to turn the dial up on that to 100 if we can.
Yeah, it's very much an All Blacks philosophy, isn't it? That's what they're about. You're looking at the shirt for the next person, whether it's next week or when you move on to other things onwards. Let's talk about preparation, because travelling, see people coming in, but you guys travelling out, the ideal world, you'd be up, nice breakfast, just relax at home instead of on a choppy boat. How much, it's obviously maybe it's hard statistically to how much it impacts the travel, but, just again, talk about having to build resilience, about maybe it's a 2-day travel to play a game, and how much that impacts the performance.
What do you feel of it with a home game versus an away game, or an away game on the boat versus an away game flying?
It is difficult because you're never in a routine every week. I like my routine at home. I get up at a certain time, eat the same food, I go and watch my Sunday League Club, if you like, and then go down to the bowl. So I'm in a routine, and when we go away, it's hard to get into that routine because different things crop up, like the player might be delayed, or you might not get in for breakfast at this place, and you might be an hour away from the play, and you might be 10 minutes away. So it's difficult in that sense, but it's sort of what we signed up for. So you can't mope about it. Do you know what I mean? It's worth it for us because we get to play this level of football. So
not using this, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's say a poor performance, or not the level you'd want.
Yeah, I think I certainly noticed a difference. We had lots of away games, didn't we, this season, in previous seasons early on. And then we had a run of home games through to Christmas. And there was an away game just after Christmas. I think a Saturday away game where we were up at 5 a.m. playing. I was paddying away when we were horrendous. And you could just see the lads were just not at it at all. And the travel massively took it out of them. So, if you travel for work on a regular basis, then you get used to it, don't you? And you know that how to prepare yourself. But then if you ever break away from traveling loads and then you go back into it, it just knocks you for six. So we had a bit of that, I think, when we started traveling again. And I think it takes more out of us than we probably realize. And maybe at times we could train less and maybe go out for dinner more, or, do other things together rather than add another physical hit to people. And maybe we need to be a little bit clever around that in how we manage our week when we're traveling so frequently, because it's a huge ask mentally and physically. And then, leaving work, leaving family, leaving kids, loved ones, it's not, I know you've not got kids, but but it's a huge toll, not just for us, but for our wives and partners and families and work colleagues. And I think that we don't recognise that enough at times, and we're not kind enough to ourselves and them enough at times. And maybe if we can handle that a little bit better, we'll have a bit more energy when we really need it, rather than trying to think we can just be, like a pepper army stick and just keep going for 46 games, no matter what.
Yeah, good. I was just going to jump on that second. Yeah, because I noticed where I was looking before, between, let's say, last night to the 20th, there's 7 games or something like that coming up. You've got a game there every 3 days, with one back-to-back when you're going away as well. So when you talk about that, just as in, it just adds that, how much there is involved in that sort of sense of, I guess, from a logistical point of view, from your side of trying to sort them all out, just the transport and getting everyone away and all that side, when you've got 2-day turnarounds and all that side to it, to what have we got now? Storms going on. So I don't know whether you're home or away this weekend, but then you're looking at checking the forecast, and you've got all that sort of stuff that can be thrown in. You probably the logistical, you guys from that preparation just to try and get over one game, and then you're like, okay, right, tomorrow we've got to prepare for 2 days time for the next one. So I can imagine just what that can take on from a managerial to a player point of view, especially.
Yeah, we've got great people behind the scenes doing all the logistics stuff. Like, travel counsellors do a lot of our flights and hotel bookings, and Ivanov and Craig and Dicko now with the Steam packet. They do so much, but it's still a lot on our mind, isn't it? Is the game going to be on? Is the other team coming? What's going to happen if it's called off? And then I've got to figure out which of our 40 registered players are available game to game to try and get the best group possible out. But it's relentless. I think, what's the Manx season? 24 games maximum?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And that's like half our season, and the relentlessness of it to go from game to game to game. It's good in some ways, but oh my God, it's tough as well.
The back-to-back games soon coming up there away.
Yeah.
Are they being arranged to help you guys because you're already in the UK? Or is it more because you've just got to fit them in?
A little bit of both. So we were playing Friday night and then Saturday afternoon. And I think the team we're playing, to be fair, we're playing Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. So it's mainly around their pitch, but it's the only day that we could fit in. So you're right, we've got 7 away games in the next 10 days. Yeah, 14 days. Yeah.
Get your passport out by.
It comes back to what you were mentioning before, is that you need the guys who are coming to be that committed, so that when you look at those sheets, there's obviously some circumstantial, but there's a core group of good guys there that that you can call up and they're going to be available, rather than, as you said, just that extra stress of people who might turn up or might not be there in that sense.
I think, Kyle, correct me if he thinks I'm not right on this, but I think no matter who we've had pull the shirt on in the last 12 months, they've shown they're good enough to play at this level of football. And some of that, I think, comes a long way from being in the training group and hearing the same messages and everybody knowing what's meant to be happening. And then you can rely, like, if I'll use Jamie Cole as an example, who hasn't played as regularly maybe as he could for a variety of reasons, but every time Jamie's the right person to play, he'll come and give a performance, and it'll be different class, and we often win the game when Jamie plays. And he's one of a number of players that who's around, who's got a wonderful work ethic, who's a really good person, and when you give them the shirt, they're not going to let you down. And that is what I will know will get us through the next 2 weeks, because I know whoever takes the shirt from anybody else in the next kind of 9 games, they're going to be able to put performance in at this level of football. And like, I'm pretty sure there's a number of players in our group that people within the Manx football community would be saying they're not good enough. They couldn't do it. They can, and they have been, and that's something I'm really proud of.
You're gonna hate me now, Paul. I'm gonna pick a little scab. You mentioned before when you took on the role, maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome, and just talk a little bit about that and overcoming that. I guess it might resonate with players who, again, maybe first, second time or playing, who feel like this isn't my, they may feel the same as well.
Yeah, I think, it's a hard one to talk about in some ways. But yeah, I think I knew I was capable enough to do the role. I think the way that it came about wasn't great for anybody. And I was very aware of the feelings within certain sectors around me doing the job. So I was more wanting to be as respectful as I could to that side of it, whilst also attempting to do my own thing in my way, in the way that I thought was best to go about it. And I think I'm slowly getting there. But, we're a small community, like, things get said in our community that probably get back to you far quicker than they would do in a big community. I'm very aware of that, and always try to be very respectful of that. But I'm also aware there was lots of things said about me at that moment that I didn't want to go on record to defend. But I was also, when you're there in a very public position, kind of, what are people thinking? Like, you can't get away from that at all. And we spoke a little bit in terms of the players who just kind of when we're going through a tough time is just standing there and like being there and putting yourself in that position sometimes takes a huge amount of mental and physical energy. And I was in that place a lot last year where I could quite happily just sit in my bedroom and not gone in public because of everything that was going on. But I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't, but it was tough at times. So it wasn't necessarily about my abilities. It was just about that feeling of what's everyone saying and what's everyone thinking about me. And I know at times the players going on the pitch, if they make a mistake at home in front of 1,200 people and go into work the next day, they're going to get ribbed about it. And they wouldn't necessarily get that if they're playing for Liverpool. Their teammates might, but that's a safe space. It's when you get random people saying stuff to you that don't have a clue about you and don't know the history or don't know what's going on. In a small community, there's that kind of little echo chamber, isn't there? And very difficult to get away from it. So that's what I was kind of, to some extent, not as much, but that's what I was kind of dealing with a little bit. Like, it's just kind of what's going on around me that I can't control, and trying to like keep myself away from that as much as I possibly could do, whilst also not making things worse for myself. So, like,
I assume there's, like you say, there's a lot of noise that's outside your control. I assume, and I don't know, as players, you mentioned about being with the fans, and you never really, and rightly so, they'll never be critical, etc. But I guess there's still an element of pressure around that. And when it comes to social media, if there is interaction on there, or do you just stay away from it, or you're pretty good as a player just to, if it is negative, just to, and maybe you don't see it, which is even better.
Yeah, no, I'm quite bad. I'll read it all the Twitter and everything. No, I've never gone back to anyone. But
how do you handle that then? Because obviously, I mean, but young kid, it's easy to get engaged. It's easy to either let them mess with your head, or engage with them, or let it affect your mentality or mental health.
I think behind what everyone else sees, I think we know sort of the direction we're wanting to go in, and that's what we've got to stick to, sort of thing. If people get called out in the dressing room, that's behind closed doors, if you get me. Like, that never goes out there. The dressing room's like a safe space, sort of thing. And I think we all really know that everyone has an opinion, don't they? So you just sort of, like, it's a cliche, isn't it? You've got to ignore it because you do see it and it will affect you, definitely. But I suppose it's how you deal with it. And I'm quite fortunate. I've not received anything, obviously, or anything like that. So I've not had to experience it. I don't know how I'd react, but as a squad, I don't really think, I think the fans have been really supportive, even in ways. When we're in a rut and losing 4 or 5 games on the bounce, they still really get behind you, and they still turn up in their numbers and still sing for you and stuff, which is, just think that's really incredible.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I think I got quite a public job anyway, and I interact with lots of people in sport, and I think there's lots of benefits of coming from our island, but there's some costs associated with that as well. And too many people thinking they know your business is one of them, and having an opinion about your business. And I'm not just saying from my point of view, but from the players and, other athletes on the Isle of Man's point of view. Like, it's hard to get away from any opinion that people may already have of you. And at the minute, our supporter base is different class with the players and different class with me and the staff. And
they're all going to be part of the team, aren't they?
100%. And that's what I was kind of saying around that positive support in the stadium and unconditional support in the stadium. We've really experienced that, and that'll probably be the time that I'll walk away from the club if that starts to shift and it starts to turn into a finger pointing, blame culture where players are getting called out by fans and, saying all sorts in public because we're too small a community for that to happen. That's just, for me, that's the beginning of the end, to be honest, if it descends into normal kind of football culture.
Let's talk about players moving on. I think Dean has recently moved on to Bury, so that's ultimately obviously the challenge with the Isle of Man is. So going back to our original vision and thinking about, part of that was to provide that platform. Obviously, then there's that downside of losing players. I presume it's just now you're actually front and centre and you're the one losing the players from that vision of, well, it's the manager's problem if you lose the player. Is that, again, you accept that's part of this journey?
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? It's partly what we're here for. So, It'd be nice if we got some money for
How
it. But,
poorly?
well, when I say partly in terms of, generating visitor spend on the Isle of Man, a couple of million that we've done in the last 3 years, and, having a community asset and, having a safe space for people to come and watch football, there's lots of other bits. So from a football point of view, yeah, it is a huge challenge from a manager's point of view in the next few years. If we go up with division, then more of our younger players will probably go because it's part of the National League system there, and it's seen as part of proper semi-pro football. If good 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds are playing at that level consistently, they won't be around us very long. And if you lose 2 or 3 of them a season, then it becomes difficult to replace, doesn't it? And maybe that's where we don't really progress from in terms of the level. But Dean going to Bury, it's going to give him a much better platform than it would if he stayed on the Isle of Man, and hopefully it springboards him into a professional career. I'd like in time our team and our island to be a place where people feel they can stay long enough to get a shot at playing professional football, either at National League level or National League North, League 2, without having to go elsewhere to college or America or anywhere else, because the club is doing that already. So why spend a load of money going off if you really want to be a footballer, because the pathway exists on the Isle of Man? If you're going for other reasons, fair enough. I think we're a little way from that yet, but if we have one player a season going into professional football, that's a huge win for us. And then it's about how we make sure we've got that sustainable player pathway on the island to being able to regenerate and replenish the player group.
Yeah, I suppose you're back to the young fans that are there today watching. And when we say young, 6, 7-year-old, it's almost a generational project, isn't it?
Completely, and not everyone has to be a player, do they?
No.
So you've got marketing, you've got chair people, board members, physios, coaches, whatever it might be. There's lots of roles required within a football club, and not every young fan is going to be a player of this football club, but hopefully they will wish to contribute in some way, shape, or form, either by coming to watch and spending a tenner, or having a role within the club. And if we have that, then the club will be around for decades. Yeah.
So just, I suppose, on that community side, we've got a board here with a lot of your sponsors and support on them. I mean, it's a bit of a stupid question, really, but obviously the importance of them to the whole project.
It's massive. They've been different class. Like Telecom from day one, saw what we were trying to do, and without them, it wouldn't have been possible, to be honest. And without any of the sponsors, it makes what we're doing even more difficult. And, I think part of our sell back in the day, when I was part of those conversations, and unfortunately I'm not anymore, was the more money we bring in through sponsorship, the less money fans have to pay out the gate and through merchandise. So, it's part of their CSR, if that's still the 3 letters now. I don't know what's used in business terminology for their community kind of sustainability bits. But sponsoring us makes football more accessible, and then all the great things that happen from the football club being in existence can have a really positive impact on our community. So more and more of our local companies are seeing that. The better we do on the pitch, then the more people come into the stadium, the better the atmosphere, the bigger the buzz is around the club, and the better bang for the buck that the businesses get. But unless the club exists in the first place, then none of that happens. And, the guys that are up there at the moment are fantastic, and I'm sure there'll be some sponsorship opportunities coming up for the new season. So please do reach out to the club, because, as I say, we want the club to be as accessible as possible for as many people as possible, and that can only really happen if the business community get behind it a little bit, and then we're not dipping into punters' pockets all the time to big bad football does with stupid season ticket prices and stupid merchandise prices. We don't want to do that, but the less money we bring in through sponsorship, then the more money we need to bring in through gate receipts and merchandise and all the rest of it. And it's, it's just the nature of the beast, isn't it?
Indeed. If you had to describe your coaching style, what would it be? No. Go on.
I try and abdicate as much responsibility as possible and put it on the players. No, in all seriousness, I think I recognize where my limits in terms of what I can or can't control are. So it's very much we're all in it together, let's figure it out together, as much as I possibly can be. And I think I probably pared that back a little bit this season. I'm a little bit more direct in terms of this is what I would like us to do.
Would that be part of you maybe get more comfortable in your shoes as well in the role?
Maybe a little bit. And also because I think the players probably needed that. Like, although we've got some really experienced players, we're still in a place where maybe a lot of people see the game slightly differently. So unless I give this kind of cohesive vision of how we want to play, then everyone's riffing off something different. And I think the better I can get it going, right, this is what we're trying to do, how that happens over the next 6 months, we're going to figure that out ourselves, but this is like clearly what we're trying to do. And it's probably taken me longer than I wanted to get there, but I think we're starting to get there. And I think results and performances are starting to improve off the back of that. But yeah, quite collaborative, certainly flat hierarchy, which can cause problems at times because maybe some people don't then necessarily see me as the manager or the leader because I leave some things up for the group to sort out because it's not always for me to sort things out.
So that's empowerment, I guess. And
it is, but it can lead to like a vacuum at times, can't it, as well, which maybe means things don't quite go in the direction that I would like them to be. But the long win is that we're all learning and it'll be a better thing in 3 or 4 years' time, rather than me going like tightly controlling absolutely everything. And then when I go, it all goes to crap. That can't happen. So very much trying to work on a sustainable culture and a sustainable way of playing that the players can take as much ownership of as possible. So when I'm not doing the job anymore, like my impact is that nothing really changes and the next manager comes in and adds to that rather than has to start from again, reinvent the wheel. Yeah.
Is that what you see, Carl? See, you're not going to contradict him, but
you're allowed to contradict. Yeah, he would contradict me, so he's allowed to.
No, I would. But no, I agree. Yeah, I think it's good when you said about the sort of the level that you have, like the different coaches. You got Gaz, you got Dewar, and it's different coming from different faces, sort of thing. And then Albo comes up in the changing room, and it's different. It's good sort of hearing a different voice and. When they all say the same thing, it sort of reinforces it, the fact to the players, and then all moving in one direction, I guess, yeah.
So it's that big message, I suppose, ultimately, as that point of that sphere is having you coaching everyone on the same message throughout the club, but certainly at that senior level.
Yeah, and again, I think I've probably not communicated that as clearly as I could have done for lots of different reasons. We're still figuring a lot of things out, really, and what the players can do individually in a group and what the levels we need to be at to do well at this sort of football. But certainly my key aim for next season will be to be much better at communicating what that vision is in terms of how we're going to play, and then helping the coaches to really understand that. So we say the same thing even more often than we do already, and then the players are then reinforcing that within each other. And I'm kind of giving that kind of like vision of what we're trying to do, and then we all like work together and collaborate to carry it out, rather than being very autocratic and dictatorial in terms of like, ultimately, I don't care how we trap the ball in one area of the pitch. Just don't let the ball go out of that area of the pitch. Like that's the thing. And then between us, we'll figure out the best way to do that, depending upon what sort of opposition we're talking about, rather than going, actually, this player has to do that, and this player has to do that, and this player has to do that. And then when it doesn't quite work like that in that picture, then they haven't got a clue what to do. And then they'll look at me and go, well, you told us to do that. And players like that. They really like that, to be told this is just what we have to do. But unless we have players...
Well, that's humans. We're sheep by nature.
But unless we have people that can understand the game and think and adapt on the fly, then when they do move to a bigger and better club, they're going to struggle, because there's no guarantee that they're going to go into a system of play that is how we play. There's no guarantee that if they do, that the manager's going to stay there for longer than 6 months, and then they've got to adapt to something else. So the better students of the game that we have, and the better they understand the game and the various different ways of playing it, then the better they will be at higher levels if they move off the Isle of Man or if the club goes higher. And I think we've done that quite well this season. But that's been at a cost of not having a very nailed down, this is us, this is how we play, and this is how we're consistently going to do it. So our results have been a little bit up and down because I've prioritised learning and development of the group whilst also trying to get results at the same time. And we were sat here before going, we should be in 5th in the league, we should be in the playoffs, even with that. But I know the group are in a far better place for next season than they would have been if we'd have just gone, well, we're going to try and win the league and finish second or whatever, and not care about the development of the playing group and the coaches.
So looking forward then on your long term, let's say long term, then what would your vision and or ambitions be then for the club? Because I know you spoke about yourself getting in the best position that it doesn't matter who wears the shirt, the cap. Yeah. The club itself, how would you kind of have a look forward in that sense?
It's sustainable that, year on year, the club's going to be there. We're still not at that point where we can be confident that we're going to see every season out, for the next 5 years. So, in 10 years' time, still having a club and knowing that there's a business model works and that you've got money year to year to keep going, like that has to be a key aim, doesn't it? And some of that's down to success on the pitch. And I've said for a while, I think the player group are more than capable of getting towards National League North. That's not just the group we've got, but the young players that we know that are coming through. If and when that ever happens, I don't know. We might get to step 4, step 3, and then all our better players keep going, and there's no chance of going any further without investment or completely changing the model to bringing off-island players in, which I hope, we never do. So, I think a sustainable football club that is generating millions for our economy like we are already, whilst also having a pathway for players, coaches, analysts, social media people, whatever it might be. Rob Pritchard from Manx Radio going off and working for Sky Sports, something like that. If we have that sort of pathway to people to go and have jobs in the professional game in 10 years' time, then we're in a good place, I think.
It's interesting, the economy point. Sorry, man. Because I do think it often gets forgotten about. It's just like, what's the results? And there's a cost for you guys, obviously paid by sponsors on and off Ireland, but you forget about when Bury were over, trying to stay out of Douglas is too big for me as a city. But a lot of Bury fans around, so that's obviously a week in, week out thing that's happening. Bringing revenue to the Isle of Man.
It's a huge, we as a club, paying £300,000-400,000 a year for the club to go, and that's money going into our economy. But over and above that, the visitor spend will have been over 2 mil in the last 3 seasons. That is new money into our economy, and that doesn't include the large number of supporters who've been with their team and then come back with family and friends, and we can't capture that information. And a lot of them do come for 2 nights or 3 nights and make a bit of a weekend of it. Like, the club being in existence has a huge positive impact for our community, even if we don't quite get 3 points against Lower Breck on the Saturday. And like, for us, the world's ended. But when you zoom out and you go, actually, like, this is pretty cool, what is happening with the club in existence, but it'll be even cooler if we win more and we go for cup divisions. And I don't think that, the players probably don't always think in those terms either. But part of their commitment to the club is making sure that we do as well as we can on the pitch. And the better we do on the pitch means all of that stuff happens even more, and the bigger impact they have on our community. And I think year 1, we got that coming off quite well. Year 2 was proper tough, and it took a lot for people to keep going. And this year, we've probably focused much more on our football messaging and less about role models and, the community aspect. And I think we need to find the balance a little bit more around that.
No, I was just going to throw it over to Carl in terms of what your ambitions are then in terms of the team and playing football, and is there a desire?
Yeah, obviously, personally, I want to be playing at the highest level I possibly can be, whether that be in FCL Man in 5 years or playing higher up if obviously I'm capable. But I think as a team, we just want to, and me personally, want to get as high up as we possibly can. Whether that be National League North or step 4 or even step 3. I'm not sure like where we are capable. It's sort of like, don't know where the ceiling is, do you? Because we've not played that high up yet. I think the most frustrating thing is for us that when we play teams in our league, we see our players are like as good as everyone in our league, I believe. I don't know, yeah. So that's frustrating that our position in the league doesn't reflect that. That makes sense. And we sat here before and probably picked out 5 or 6 fixtures where you think, we've got a point there, we've come away with a loss, and it's one mistake might have cost us 3 points, and then you add them silly mistakes together, then we're up in 4th or 3rd even, which is, it's obviously frustrating. But then if you zoom out as a big picture, like you say, and I sometimes struggle to see that, because you're just focusing on Saturday, you want to win, and that's the most important thing. But when you zoom out and you see £2 million in the max economy over the last 3 years.
It's 3 years into the club.
Exactly, that's ridiculous. And you see all the pictures on Twitter and stuff of all the Bury fans came over. I think they came over Thursday, and then they went home Sunday afternoon. So that's like, yeah, I think the whole big picture of FC Isle of Man's really understated, to be honest.
Good. So just one final question. Just for those that don't listen, I meant to mention at the start, Paul, we spoke 4 years ago now, quite a long, in-depth conversation. If you go down our feed, it's there. You might be mortified that people go and listen to it, but I do think it's a really good listen. One of the things that struck me is we spoke, and you were very candid in the conversation about your background, your journey, and I think it's fair to say after that you were nervous about the content going out.
Yeah, very much so.
Which I think if people go and listen to it, they'll understand that the drive you have to ultimately just create something that's good for the community, and that's the desire here. And when you kind of hear the vulnerability in that, hopefully for any people who are naysayers out there, maybe go and listen to that, and then maybe just pick a mirror up and have a look in the mirror before you fire criticism out. Anyway, I just want to say that while we're on and to promote the previous pod that you probably don't want people to listen to. The question is, you played midfield a bit?
Yeah, on the Isle of Man, I was a defender.
Oh, right, okay.
Proper football, yeah. Centre back and right back.
Would you get in that team today?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah.
All right.
Especially if I'm picking the team.
I presume you see him training. I assume you actually, or you're more on the side.
I don't
want to.
I don't show train very much, and when I do, I'm horrendous. So Kyle wouldn't put me in that team. I'm sure.
Okay.
He does get involved. He's always got a sore hamstring or something. That's an excuse.
Yeah. No, these lot. Going back to Kyle's point there, not knowing they don't know how good they could be, and part of our job is instilling that belief that they can be better than they are. Do you know what I mean? And the better they get as a group, then the better they'll get as individuals, and the more attention the club will get and they will get individually. I've been very fortunate to work at some of the biggest clubs in the world and some of the biggest academies in the world. And what we have on the Isle of Man from a football talent point of view is not far away at all. What we lack is that structure and understanding of the game, and the players' willingness to put the team ahead of themselves, which sounds daft, but if we can get that with a really good group of game understanding and the young players coming through, learn the game at a good level quicker, then we've got a right chance of doing very, 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 very well without needing to buy in help from outside. And that is one of the things that's always excited me about the whole thing. We probably haven't learned quick enough this season as a group, which is why we're there where we are. But the experiences will put us in a good place for next season. And then it's about identifying people who are willing to learn and willing to commit. And if they can learn quickly and commit, then, the world's our oyster, I think.
Well, first of all, it's interesting when we were doing a bit of research for this, listening, realizing and understanding that being the Be Better on your logo. And I'd definitely say from listening to yourselves here that it's definitely something in that ethos that it seems to be carried around in everything that you're talking about between yourselves, the guys, that not self-improvement, yes, but also more importantly about the team and everyone around all through it. So, yeah, it's just something that I picked up on throughout the whole conversation. You can just hear that Be Better vibe come through everything. So, yeah. And I was kind of you're fully living that motto and everything that comes from that, which which I think personally is great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. That was Ty. Ty Smith kind of came up with those words, and unfortunately, he's no longer involved in the group. But it's something as the founding kind of fathers, as it were, of the football club. It was something we're passionate about, and I'm passionate about keeping it alive. Do you know what I mean? And again, if I don't think the club or the wider club is able to deliver that, then it's not something I can be involved in anymore. And certainly something that I'll fight for. Yeah.
I've just got one more, but yeah, that's all right. Can I have your highlight so far throughout the journey from being in FC IOM? Whoever wants to go first on that.
Mine's probably that first season I got brought in for the club towards the end of it, and then won the cup. Just put 2,500, 3,000 people at the ball, which is just absolutely mental still to this day. Like, it was crazy. I was 17, 18 at the time. It was just, yeah.
Probably first season again, watching with my daughter against Wivenshaw. Wasn't Wivenshaw, sorry, West Didsbury, in Chorlton at home. And it was the first game. We had about 2,700 people there on a night game. And Lila wouldn't have a clue about professional football, but I had to tell someone. I was like, do you know what? This is like watching a game in England, Lila. This is like watching a professional football game, because you had West Didsbury fans singing, you've only got one Tesco, and all that sort of stuff. You've got our fans trying their best at the time to create an atmosphere. We had flares, which we got in all sorts of trouble for, and please never bring a flare into our ground ever again. But it was a proper football game, and we won in the last minute, I think 4-3. And I sat there going, you know what? This works. The club works on a football level, on a community level. This is it. And we've had a few days like that, but that was the first time where I've gone, you know what? We've actually done something quite cool here. How do we protect it and make sure that it stays like this without going down a bad road? And so far so good. It's still really positive. It's still everyone's got really good intentions behind what they're trying to do, and hopefully that stays like that for a long time to come.
Yeah, it's a great story to end on. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Word out from Martin.
Word out from Matt.